Imagine having someone talking to you who isn't really there. There are people who live with hearing voices in their heads. 3 of them have agreed to explain what it's like and how they deal with it every single day.
People say, what can I do to help? And you say, I really don't know.
This reality stinks, because you can't see what I can see.
I don't think people have any idea of what it's like to hear voices unless they hear them themselves.
Sarah, Julian and Deirdre all hear voices. It's made life difficult and it's not easy to talk about, but it's something they want us to understand better.
Eventually, I was carted off to hospital and told that if I didn't accept injections, that I'd lose my son, who I was bringing up on my own. So I accepted the medication. I first became ill with paranoid schizophrenia in 1983. And one of the symptoms was that I was hearing voices. By that I mean I was hearing other people's voices in my head, in the place where we all hear our own voice when we are thinking.
I can distinctly remember when I first started hearing voices. That was 13 years ago when I was in hospital. I suddenly had a loud male voice inside my head telling me what to do.
So the only thing I could sort of come to think was that I had an electronic beam on the top of my head, and there were people whispering into microphones at the other end of the beam. So I thought it must be British Army or Secret Services.
The visual hallucinations are so intense that I start speaking what the voice is talking to me out of my mouth, which nobody understands. And then I've gone into a trance-like state. Well, this is the Waveney Valley, and 25 years ago I had my mystical experience with 300 tubes of light, little elevators going up and down in the tubes of light, and I thought them were spirits ascending and descending from heaven. The first time I went through the 40 days in the wilderness and phoned Buckingham Palace to inform Her Majesty of my arrival on Earth. And when the guy hung up on me at reception, I said, "How dare you hang up on me? Deity commands, Queens, send a car, here's the address." And they sent 2 police cars, an ambulance and 2 doctors and locked me up.
When you hear your own voice, it sounds like you. And these were other people's voices, they were men's voices. And quite often they were speaking to each other.
Each of us has an inner voice, I think. Everybody can talk to themselves or argue with themselves. In schizophrenia, for instance, diagnostically, it's perceived as somebody different. It's not yourself, it's outside your head, often talking to each other about you in a way which you don't find very comfortable.
Often people dealing with these symptoms feel that their experiences are of a religious nature.
I believe God was involved, which is also quite common. I think it has to be something spiritual.
So you're saying it could be nothing but religious?
No, everything is totally and utterly spiritual. It must be.
I mean, are you ever in the situation where you meet someone and you can't tell whether there is a condition there or whether they're just an extreme person?
It's always very hard to understand if there's a condition or not. We don't even, for instance, call them illnesses as such. They're disorders. They're lists of symptoms which cluster together so that we roughly think schizophrenia is these sort of symptoms. And we can, between psychiatry colleagues, we can agree that. It doesn't mean we can look at somebody or do a test and prove they've got schizophrenia. So we don't fully understand what it is.
Some people actually describe their voices as a good thing.
You know?
So you see these voices really as a positive thing?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, absolutely. You know, I mean, because I can fire the Pope and summon the Archbishop and save the Queen. Because I've got the authority to do so. Because of who I am in the kingdom of heaven.
So you have a lot of positive voices in your head. Am I
Well,
right?
I do.
Yeah.
You know, perhaps my voice one day told me to be careful when I was doing something, or, as I said, they say excellent and brilliant, and think. I think that's quite a positive.
So that must be comforting. Is it not? Or is it?
No. No, I'd like to live without hearing voices.
Good or not, a common concern is that listening to these voices might be dangerous and might lead to an undesirable or even disastrous conclusion.
Yes, yes, it might. It might. And I did. I ran away from hospital because I was frightened, because I didn't want to be medicated. And then the voices told me to, well, the voice was saying, I want you to break into this house. So I did, I broke into it, you know. So you do start committing, but I was looking for a shotgun to blow my head off because I thought that I could sort the whole thing out better from up there than I could do from down here.
It can be very hard to decide when someone's voices are becoming dangerous.
It's a tough judgment call, particularly about if we need to detain somebody under the Mental Health Act, because either for their own safety or someone else's, we've got to allow them to carry on doing what they're doing. And if somebody was to act in a way which, for instance, harm themselves or, God forbid, somebody else, then to a degree I'm culpable for that decision, for not having taken that person out of society for a brief spell for treatment.
There's no easy solution. Julian, Sarah and Deirdre are all trying different ways of getting their lives back. Julian is trying to cope without medication.
Well, it's not easy. I've boldly gone where no man's gone before, and it has not been an easy life.
Sarah is now heading a group in Norwich for people who hear voices to share their experiences.
It's really made me understand myself and my voices, and made me accept my voices.
Having been on such heavy medication that life was just a blur, Deirdre is now learning to use fewer pills and cope with her symptoms. It's enabled her to develop a new relationship with her son.
I've lost years. I've lost 16 years of my life, most of which I don't remember. When my new psychiatrist took over a few years ago, he said, you know, I'd like you to have a better quality of life. What can I do? And I said, well, I'd rather have some symptoms. So he reduced my medication, and I've got my life back. I'm happy. I can now look out for my son and recognise when he's not happy. For the first time in his life, he's having a life of his own, and I'm happy for him, really. But I miss him.
That's Inside Out from Milton Keynes. I'll see you next week for some more surprising stories. If you missed any of tonight's programme, you can watch again on our website, bbc.co.uk/insideout, and click on Watch Again online.